Hello agents, and welcome back to another daily episode of Beginner and Returning Players Guide series, your daily farming guide for Friday, February 26th. In this series, I cover a lot of info, so we got the targeted loot map, Dark Zone exclusives, as well as named items, highlights for the weekly vendor resets, as well as Cassie, and build and farming suggestions as well. This is Shadow Gaming, and if you're new to my channel or enjoy this video, consider pressing the thumbs up and subscribe buttons below, and if not, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. And always remember to hit the bell notification to all so you never miss a daily morning video, and comment below if you have any questions or feedback whatsoever. Otherwise, let's get this video started, agents. Alright agents, so starting off with the Dark Zones and of course vendor reset highlights, which are always in that big bottom left overlay. I highly recommend getting those Fox's Prayer knee pads from Cassie just to start right off. And then of course I would definitely get the contractor's gloves over here in the clan, maybe even the safety distance at the White House. There's a good Vector SBR in Haven, and the Baker's Dozen over at the theater. That's about all I recommend for this week. Now over here in DZ West, we got assault rifles as targeted loot. So starting off with that, you got a DZ exclusive. That's the rail splitter with perfect accurate. That increases the weapon's accuracy by 50%, which is a lot. So if you want an assault rifle that's like a laser beam and it's a CTAR weapon type, it's a really awesome weapon type, then I would definitely recommend farming for that today in the DZ West. Otherwise, you could still farm for the Chameleon with Adaptive Instincts, and then of course the other exotic, the Capacitor, if you've already completed the 5 summit challenges and it's to join the AR general targeted loot pool. And then of course there's a bunch of other named ARs in the bottom left overlay, including the Rail Splitter, which is a Dark Zone exclusive you can farm for today, but the rest of them drop in the Light Zone and some of them drop in the Dark Zone as well. And then over in DZ South, we got gear system mods. I highly recommend against farming it for the DZ for that, and same with Murakami, except for Murakami has a great name Dark Zone exclusive, and that of course is the Emperor's Guard knee pads with 1% armor regen. Definitely try to get yourself a pair of those for sure for a Foundry Bulwark tank set build or a skill build, depending on what you're trying to put together. Otherwise, let's definitely go check out what we got over in the north side in invaded missions. Alright agents, north side and including invaded missions this week, we got Camp White Oak, and then of course Bank HQ, and then DCD headquarters, and the 2 strongholds is Roosevelt Island, and then finally Tidal Basin Stronghold. Now starting off in the north side, we got Seska Camp White Oak. If you need some extra crit hit chance, 10% to be exact on your build, I'd never recommend farming for skill attachments, but here at Petrov at Coney Island Amusement Park, I definitely recommend farming for the contractor's gloves with 8% damage to armor rolled onto them. Now of course you could just buy them at the clan vendor. They're rolled pretty dang well, as you can see in the screenshot, but if you want to farm for an even better pair, you can. That way you don't have to max out the weapon damage, through optimization station, because you're gonna have to reroll that weapon handling most likely. And then of course next up we got Close Protocol at Manny National Zoo. I'll put my favorite fire damage build in the top title card right now and bottom left overlay. That is 4 pieces of Eclipse Protocol, the Imperial Dynasty holster, and 1 piece of Golan gear for an extra 10% status effects. I always run that with the Pyromaniac with Perfectly Ignited and the Capacitor, and I run that with the Chem Launcher Fire Starter and of course the Stinger Hive. And then of course, Kinley College is closed, some you pick your own targeted loot, so let's check out the west side, then east, then finally New York City targeted loot maps. Alright agents, west side targeted loot highlights, starting off with the gear sets. We got True Patriot at Foggy Bottom. I will always put my True Patriot build in the top right card, and of course bottom left overlay. That is 4 pieces of True Patriot, the Memento backpack, a Sokolov chest with Intimidate, running the Lady Death, and the Mop. Now that's for solo all the way to 4-man groups, legendary content as well as heroic and directives as well. It just kind of covers everything. And then of course if you want to, you can hunt for a Fenris chest piece with Intimidate on it and then run the Chameleon on this as an alternative AR build instead of a SMG build, and that runs great as well. And then next up we get Aces and Eights at Federal Emergency Bunker. Great gear set for headshot damage. So 3-piece Aces and Eights, 2-piece Aralda Holding, 1 being a backpack with Vigilance or Composure on it, and the Chain Killer chest piece with Perfect Headhunter. You want to run that with the Mantis as your primary, and as a secondary just run Ekim's Longstick with Perfect Ranger, the White Death, or whatever else you want to. And then of course we got Rigger at Lincoln Memorial. Great place to farm. You got 3 or 4 bosses and you can complete this in 8 or 9 minutes for sure, a heroic solo. So of course this is great for instant skill cooldowns once you cancel or destroy a skill, and then it gives you skill damage on top of that, and even more so if you're wearing the chest piece, as well as, you know, if you're using like the turret and drone, when you change targets manually with Q and E or the left or right bumpers on controllers, then it actually, you know, does the skill cooldown 4-piece talent. It's pretty awesome that just changing targets activates that, not just canceling a skill. And then the last couple we got is Negotiator's Dilemma Title Basin. I will definitely put my favorite double LMG build in the top title card and bottom left overlay. That is 4-piece Negotiator's Dilemma, the Coyote's Mask, and then the Grupo Sombro gloves or the Contractor's gloves, and then you could run the Pestilence or the Bullet King, or you can run ARs and SMGs if you want to run the Grupo Sombro gloves, or you can just do either or. It's up to you. It's great for crowd control and DPS. It just kind of does both because Negotiator's Dilemma, you know, you tag people all over the place and your crit hit damage just drains everyone else's health that you've tagged already. And the last gear set I see is Hardwired over here at DARPA Research Labs. Running Butcher did a great build of 4-piece Hardwired and then Glass Cannon or Unbreakable on a China Light chest piece, and then of course the Vial Mask. And you want to run that with the Jammer Pulse and I believe the Firefly or the Bulwark Shield. And that, I saw the video of that. It's pretty good, you know, like it shreds, you know, through enemies with your skills pretty fast. Now for normal targeted loot, we got shotguns at the Pentagon. You got 2 exotics, the Sweet Dreams exotic shotgun with the Sandman talent and the Septic Shock talent on the Scorpio. So with the Sandman talent on the Sweet Dreams, you can melee one-hit kill any red or purple barred enemy, and the cooldown is only 15 seconds, so that's perfect for a tank or skill damage build or skill healer build. And then of course with the Scorpio, 1 shot is poison, 3 shots is confuse, 5 shots is shock, and 7 shots is 20% damage debuff to that enemy, and it's good for DPS, tank, skill, hybrid, anything. And you're gonna unlock that at Season 4, level 55 I believe, otherwise you could just farm shotgun targeted loot. And then of course the other 4 best shotguns in this game would be the Mob with 10% armor on kill, the Rock and Roll shotgun with Perfectly Extra although it's a DZ exclusive, the Custom M8 70, and the Marine Super 90 with Close and Personal rolled onto them. And then next up we got Alp Summit at West Potomac Park. This is becoming one of my new favorite backpacks. It's called the Percussive Maintenance with perfect tech support. It gives you 25% skill damage but for 27 seconds instead of the Force Multiplier which only gives it to you for 3. It doesn't depend on you actually landing a shot, it depends on your turret and drone actually killing something, and that's what refreshes it, so that's the cool part about that as well. And then next up we got Gold on Gear at DCDHQ, so you can farm the Anarchist Cookbook with Perfect Wicked. That's going to grant you 18% weapon damage for an entire 27 seconds, which is a long time just like Perfect Tech Support, and that's upon applying a status effect, so that's why it's so great with the ongoing directive bleed damage builds. And of course, speaking of the Force Multiplier, you can pick that up at the Potomac Event Center today if you farm good enough for it. You want it rolled with Skill Haste and Skill Damage. It gives you 30% skill damage but for a short 3 seconds upon landing a hit on an NPC or player. So the 30% skill damage is great. You lose 5% running, you know, the Alp Summit piece, as well as 20% repair skills traded for 10% skill haste. So it's up to you what you want to do, but I'm starting to prefer the Percussive Maintenance over the Force Multiplier. And then we got Walker Harrison Code today at Roosevelt Island. So first off, the Chain Killer chest piece with Perfect Headhunter is going to deal 150% of your last killing blow. That is a lot, like 20 to 50 million a headshot, depending on if you're running the Mantis or the Nemesis, fully charged shot, as well as just keep in mind that the Matador backpack with Perfect Adrenaline Rush is a Dark Zone exclusive, so do not farm for it outside of the DZ. And if you need help with Dark Zone exclusives, I have a guide for it on my shadowgaming.network website, which is always in the pinned comment video description below, so definitely go check it out. There's no ads or anything, it's just to help you guys out. And really the last thing, couple of things I see is Providence Defense at Bank HQ, so you can farm the Sacrifice chest piece with Perfect Glass Cannon, so that's going to amplify, meaning multiplicative damage, the best type of damage in this game. Amplify your damage by 30%, but it amplifies damage to you by 60%. So this is perfect for DPS and skill damage builds. You can run it on a turret and drone build or any skill damage build or, you know, a DPS build. It just depends on if you want to, you know, be shredded that easily. And then of course I always like to mention pistols at Constitutional Hall. Just remember the Orbit with Perfect Finisher and the TDI card custom pistol are Dark Zone exclusives, and I'll refer you once again to my Dark Zone exclusives guides on how to get those. And last but not least, rifles at the White House. You can farm the Merciless and the Diamondback. Those are the 2 exotic rifles in this game, and I hope you got the Merciless yesterday from Jefferson Trade Center because that was a perfect day to get it for sure. The Merciless, you usually need like braced on your chest piece, 3-piece striker, which I almost never really recommend, or just weapon handling on 3 to 6 pieces of your gear. And the Diamondback hits really hard but only has 5 shots. Otherwise, I'd highly recommend the Baker's Dozen with Perfect Lucky Shot, which you can get at the theater vendor as well as the DZ something vendor, but the DZ one's terrible. I don't recommend the rolls. And the Surge with Perfect Spike, those are 2 great ones that drop in the light zone because the Harmony with Perfect Instinct does not drop outside of the dark zone. Alright agents, so let's move on to the east side now. Alright agents, east side target loot highlights, starting off with the gear sets. We got Hunter's Fury at Space Administration HQ. You know what I'll do, I'll put that in the top right and bottom left overlay of my favorite Hunter's Fury build. That is 4 pieces Hunter's Fury, the Death Grip Gloves with 10% armor on kill, and the Memento Backpack running the Dark Winter, the Scorpio, and the Orbit Pistol. I always run that with 3 armor cores, 4 weapon cores, and the skill tier I get from the Memento. I think running any more than 3 armor cores is kind of overkill, especially since Hunter's Fury is mostly a solo group kind of, or a solo, thing. So that's, depending on what you want to do. The alternative would be run 4-piece Hunter's Fury, a Sokolov chest with Intimidate, or my favorite Obliterate, the Memento Backpack, and the same weapons, Dark Winter, and the Orbit Perfect Finisher and the Scorpio. And then of course last gear set on this side of the map is Foundry Bulwark at East Mall. Now remember, the chest and backpack are Iron Horse Raid exclusive on normal difficulty, so keep that in mind when farming for it. But in lieu of that, just get those Emperor's Guard knee pads with 1% armor regen. They are perfect for this build, as well as 1 piece of Bellstone Armory, which you could farm over here today at Jefferson Trade Center for an extra 1% armor regen. For Foundry Bulwark, that's what you want to do. You want to stack all the way into armor regeneration, and that's just going to get you an ultimate tank build that takes on legendary missions as well. Now for normal target loot, let's go ahead and start off with LMGs at District Union. You can farm the 2 exotics, Bullet King and Pestilence. The Bullet King you never have to reload but has a lower base damage, and then of course the Pestilence, you can get that damage ticked over 1,000,000 per tick, but it's based off weapon damage and not status effects, so always keep that in mind. You want to build the Pestilence around an all red DPS build, not status effects, otherwise the damage tick will be wasted. And if you have a problem with the 6-second or 6.5-second reload speed of the Pestilence, you can always throw weapon handling or braced on your chest piece, and it can drop it all the way down to 2 or 3 seconds. And then of course there's a bunch of named LMGs in the bottom left overlay, just like assault rifles, except the Black Friday with Perfect Unhinged is a DZ exclusive. The rest you could farm for, I believe, in the light zone. The Good Times might be a DZ exclusive as well. And then next up we got Badger Tough at Judiciary Square. You could farm the 0F's chest piece with Perfect Unbreakable. That repairs 100% of your armor every time it breaks, with a cooldown of 55 seconds of course. And honestly, in the pin comment below I'll leave down this apartment SMG like Perfect Unbreakable build I did in Title Update 10. That's awesome, and it still works really well in Title Update 12.1, no Hunter's Fury or anything. And then of course I'd also recommend getting a Badger Tough backpack with the Creeping Death talent for one of my ongoing directed bleed damage builds, which I might talk about in New York City if it's available there, otherwise we'll talk about it another day. And then we got masks over here at Viewpoint Museum. So you got 2 exotics, the Coyote's Mask and then the Vile Mask. Coyote's Mask is for DPS builds for increasing crit hit chance and crit hit damage, and only 1 person in a 4-man group needs to be wearing it for everyone to get the effect of it. And then of course the Vile Mask is all based through your concussion grenades damage, so that's why you want to run the Demolitionist specialization, because it increases the damage of the concussion grenade, which therefore increases the damage of your Vile debuff damage. And then of course you could also farm for the Punch Drunk Mask with 20% headshot damage baked into it. I always recommend farming Douglas and Harding for that, but if Douglas and Harding isn't available, farm Mass, and it's great for an all high-end headshot damage build. And then of course we got knee pads at Air and Space Museum. You got 2 exotics, the Ninja Bike Messenger knee pads and Sawyer's knee pads. Now with the Ninja Bike, you vault or cover to cover and you get 25% bonus armor and instantly reload your equipped weapon. And then for Sawyer's, it's the opposite. You like sit still and you get 1% weapon damage up to 30%, and then as soon as you flinch or move, it starts dropping down by 1% to 0 and then starts resetting once you sit still again. So it's really good for like a rifle build or it's certain tank builds and stuff like that. Otherwise, if you move around too much, it's wasted. And then of course you could also farm for the Fox's Prayer knee pads with 8% damage to targets out of cover baked right into them. I recommend every agent have a pair of those, and if Cassie is still available, I'd highly recommend getting that Fox's Prayer from her this week. And now people have been asking me like, how do you find the snitch? I'm going to show you in this video real quick. You just go to this area near Jefferson Trade Center. He's almost always here, and you just go right here in this area and there'll be a green marker with a guy there, and you accept a bounty from him or you don't, but he unlocks the gun runner location, which then shows on your map. And really the last thing I'm going to mention for the whole DC area is Richter and Kaiser at Southwest. You can find the Forge holster, which gives you 50% shield health, which is equivalent to a whole skill tier worth of shield health. So farm for that if you don't have the claws out on your shield build. And real quick, I'll mention chest pieces before we leave. That's Grand Washington Hotel. So there's the tardigrade, which you could just straight up farm for. And then the Ridgeway's Pride, you need to get the project first from the summit and complete that 2-part series. Or like I always say, let your teammates know what you're farming for and vice versa. As soon as you get in a group with matchmate, clan, or whatever, just make sure everyone knows what everybody's farming for so you guys can help each other out. So that way you can complete the project for the Ridgeway's Pride if somebody just shares it with you. Otherwise, the tardigrade is great. It's almost like perfect unbreakable, but for your whole team, and you could straight up farm for it with no restrictions. And that's it for the DC area. Let's go move on lastly to what we got in New York City before we take off. Alright, agents, New York City, starting off with the gear sets. I'm glad we got an ongoing directive over here. So I got 2 bleed damage builds for you guys, and this is what I was talking about. So the first one is 4-piece ongoing directive, then the Ridgeway's Pride chest piece if you have it, and then of course the Anarchist cookbook with Perfect Wicked, because the Eclipse Protocol backpack no longer works by itself with the System Aggravator bonus talent. And of course I run the Carnage with Perfect Sadist, and then of course the Scorpio exotic shotgun with both of these builds. The second one, you want the Vile Mask, 4-piece ongoing directive, and that Badger Tough backpack with Creeping Death Talent on it. That's a really good one, but I really like the Ridgeway's Pride a little bit more, but it's up to you guys and your personal preference, obviously, like it always is. And then we got Future Initiative at Pathway Park. Just like Foundry Bulwark, the chest and backpack are Iron Horse raid exclusive, so keep that in mind when farming for it. But no worries, just get an Alp Summit chest piece with Empathetic Resolve and like a Murakami backpack with Safeguard on it, or Richter and Kaiser, or Alp Summit again, and that's a great non-raid exclusive healer build, so definitely check that out. And then of course Tip of the Spear lastly at the Tombs. Now Tip of the Spear is great for increasing your specialization weapon damage, which can be like helpful in raids and legendaries, you know, especially if you use the Survivalist with the crossbow, you could just instantly strip off armor. Now for regular targeted loot, this is where I would farm 2 Bridges area for the Fox's Prayer knee pads, and I almost missed Strikers. So for Strikers, I only ever recommend running 3 pieces for increased rate of fire and weapon handling. I never recommend any more than that. And honestly, I would prefer Brace on my chest piece talent or more weapon handling on my gear than running any piece of Striker at all. I think they did this set so dirty in this game. Comment below and let me know what your thoughts on that are too. And then of course we got holsters at the Civic Center area. So you got 3 exotics, the Waveform, which is unlocked season 4 level 90, and then you got the Dodge City holster and the Imperial Dynasty holster. So for the Waveform, it's great for giving you that 33% skill damage alternating between your left and right skills. And then for the Dodge City, it's perfect for, you know, headshot damage builds and pistol builds, and the Imperial Dynasty lights everything on fire, so it's great for that close protocol status effect build. And then of course you can farm the Forge here, but I recommend farming Richter and Kaiser because I always recommend farming the brand over the type. It usually yields better results. And then next up we got gloves at Liberty Island. You could farm the BTSU data gloves that grants overcharge to you or any ally that's at skill tier 6, and that's great for any skill healing build and some skill damage builds as well. And then of course you could also farm the contractor's gloves here, but like I said before, I'd rather farm Petrov for those for sure. And then at Battery Park we got MMRs today, so you could just straight up farm for the exotic Mantis, but for the other exotic MMR, the Nemesis, I'm gonna have to direct you to shadowgaming.network, my website, and then pin comment below for a step-by-step guide on how to get that. Otherwise, I would recommend getting Ekem's long stick with Perfect Ranger or the White Death with like Boomerang, Rifleman, or Ranger rolled onto it. And last but not least, yeah, double checking, we got submachine guns at Wall Street. So of course you got Lady Death and the Backfire. Both of those you could just straight up farm for, but the Chatterbox, I will have to put my guide in the top right video as well as my website, which is there too, just how to get the Chatterbox quickly. Because the Chatterbox is a quest-only submachine gun exotic. The other two, like the Backfire, you can just straight up farm for, as well as the Lady Death. The Lady Death only has 32 clips in its magazine, 42 if you're running True Patriot build. And then of course with the backfire, you're going to need about 90-94% hazard protection and bleed resistance before you can get rid of that bleed. And then of course always remember the Dark Winter and the apartment are Dark Zone exclusives. I just always say this because I don't want anyone wasting their time farming for the Dark Winter or the apartment, you know, outside of the Dark Zone. It's just, I don't want to waste anyone's time, you know. And then of course the named SMGs I do recommend in the light zone is the Grudge with Perfect Vindictive and the Safety Distance with Perfect Outsider, which you can get at the White House vendor this week as well. Those two are really good SMGs on their own respective builds for sure. Otherwise, that's really all I recommend for New York City area agents. Well, agents, that was your daily farming guide for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider pressing the subscribe, like, and share buttons below, and if not, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. And always remember to check the video description and pinned comment below for links to my shadowgaming.network website, which covers basically every useful piece of information that you could need, like weekly vendor resets, you know, DZ exclusive guides, exotic guides, weekly, you know, just everything. And then of course my Shadow Gaming merch store, if you'd be so kind to support me through membership by clicking the join button below, you know, you get exclusive perks and all sorts of other cool stuff, and it really helps me out as well. And then of course you're welcome to join my Discord and Shadow Crew clan on all platforms if you need a clan to help you out. But otherwise, agents, just stay tuned for more daily Division 2 content. This is Agent Shadow signing off. I will see you in the next video. Take care, agents, and thank you so much for every agent that watched to the very end. I appreciate that you watch my content. I work hard on it every morning.